This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
This is Parshas Chayesara 5777, and we are building on our previous one-way discussions regarding System 1 and System 2. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you must go listen to the previous two shiurim. But just to recap extremely briefly, okay, we have established that there are two possible ways that nature will operate. Both are referred to as a Tanai. There are two Tanaim, two deals with nature, two arrangements with nature. There's what we call System 1 and what we call System 2. We associate System 1 with eating from the Eitz HaChaim. So System 1 is where we are entirely aware and live and act and respond to everything with total emunah that Hashem provides everything. And therefore Hashem does provide everything for us through the delivery system called nature. We're going to take that further today. And we are provided for not just through Hashem's instruments, Hashem's creations, human and not human, nature and human nature, but we are provided for on a moment by moment, minute by minute, need by need basis. In other words, it's as if all of Teva, nature and human nature, is aware of what we need and responds to deliver us exactly what we need as we need it. So for example, when we are in this mindset, when we live clarity that only Hashem provides everything and everyone else is just a shaliach, we're standing at the Yam, so we need it to split, so it splits. Remember that? We did the Balakeda 2 weeks ago. There's no breaking the laws of nature. Those are the laws of nature. Okay? And however, the alternative is called eating from the Eitz Hadas Tov Ra. Remember this? That's when we look at the world and we make logical conclusions from the reality that we see with our five senses. So we make the first and ultimate mistake of concluding that it's nature that provides for us, the tree and the earth that, grows crops, and the person, the boss who has giving me a check, those are our providers, and we start relating to them. Generally, we start out realizing that we better ensure the continuous, flow of their providing for us. So we've got to make sure to keep them happy. And we start worrying how to keep everything happy, and we start compromising our values to keep people or nature happy, even sacrificing, etc. And we live in fear. This is right. We live in fear. What if I can't get what I need? How can I manage this? How can I ensure my control? Everything is a power play. Everything is a manipulation. Everything is a deal. Everything is an arrangement. Everything is a power play. Everybody is instrumentalized. Everybody is a threat. Every relationship is utilitarian. Okay, because what happens is I am in survival of the fittest mode. Under that, a relationship between nature and nature, as we said, says, you think I'm your provider? Oh no, I am not your provider, and I'm not going to cooperate. So yeah, you've got to work with, I'm going to do what I do, and you got to work with me, and sometimes you'll be successful and sometimes you won't, but I operate. For these people, nature is like a closed system, rules of nature that never change, and you got to adapt yourself or you'll starve to death. For the other people, nature is not a closed system that never changes. Nature is a dynamic system that's constantly changing itself for the needs. So when the Jews are standing on Yam Suf, and we're in System 1, and nature, the water just splits, people in System 2 who have no concept of this, they're wrestling all the time with nature. They say, oh my goodness, the rules of nature just changed. That's a miracle. And that is actually supposed to get them to stand back and stop and say, if all the rules of nature can change, clearly nature is not the end-all and be-all. There's something greater. And it's supposed to bring them into some perspective that there's System 1. And it's actually Hashem who's providing. But they call it a breach in the laws of nature. And it's not at all. It's just nature doing what it's supposed to do. So far, so good?
Yes.
Now, what we're going to do today is, we're going to see this clear as day. It's incredible. Seriously, today's share is one of it's not my ideas. Some of the ideas were taken from Rav Yisrael Belsky Zechrono Levracha in this wonderful Sefer on Chumash. And they're building on the Baal HaKeda's ideas that my father-in-law, Zechrono Levracha, whose 12th month since the Patira is this week, that he taught me, and we're all very, very grateful, because really without this foundational idea, the rest of what we've learned and what we'll be learning would not really be so, clear and solid. So we're going to see, we've established last week that Avraham and Sarah enter System 1. When? What point? When do they enter System 1? Oh, okay, I know what you're saying. Pesach. When do they officially begin to operate in System 1? And System 1 applies to them. The Bris Milah and the name change. After the Bris Milah, everything that happens is entirely System 1. And we established that if somebody is living in System 1, and Hashem is providing everything, then this is the arrangement between System 1 people who have to interact with people in System 2. How does it work? Well, it works like this. It's not complicated. System 2 people everything is a power play. Everything is, like we said, a manipulation. They're busy manipulating. However, Hashem is using their fears and their manipulations and their strategies to provide for System 1. So when Avraham goes down to Mitzrayim, right? Even before that, before the bris, even on a even lesser level, but you could still see it. And then by the second time after the bris, it's even more. He says to Sarah, "Look, they are going to take you because you're beautiful, and it's a power play. The king with the most beautiful women. So they don't care about women's rights. They're not going to ask you if you want to go. This is a power play. This is to the king should have the great status and have all the power and can do whatever he wants, which is System 2. Okay? And everybody's securing their own, power by manipulating everyone else and oppressing everyone else. He says, but what's going to happen is Hashem's not going to let them hurt you. And Hashem is going to create a situation, he clearly understood this, where they're going to return you to me, and to make up for the offense that they committed, they're going to enrich me. They're going to give me tons of money. That's how Hashem is going to make me rich, by their own problems, by their System 2 problems.
He was able to foresee that?
He said that. He said, they're going to take you, and then he's going to make me rich because of it. I'm going to get rich through this.
So he actually told Sarah.
He said it, yeah.
Where does he say that?
It says, go look in Lech Lecha. He says it. He says, they're going to take you, say you're my sister, and then they're going to make me rich on account of this. So, then after the bris, it's even on a higher level. And we pointed out that when Hashem says to Sarah, when the Malachim come after the bris, and tell Sarah that she's going to have a child, the language is System 1 language. They don't say Hashem will give you a child. It says, V'hinei ben l'Sarah. There's going to be a child. It's just going to be. It's automatic. Because she needed to have a child. So who cares if she's 90? It is all irrelevant. So she gets what she needs, and she needs it, and nature is a delivery system. So nature can do whatever it wants. She could get young again. She can menstruate again, have a child again. Hinei ben l'Sarah. Now, we're going to go further. She laughs. Remember that? Batitzcha. She's laughing because that exactly is the reaction that it is destined that all of Am Yisrael are going to have, right? Yitzchak, az yimalei tzachok pinu. Then, in the future, our mouths will be full of laughter. We'll be laughing out loud, because when we get to the future, it's going to be crystal clear when we look back that all the maneuverings of everybody in System 2 trying to threaten us and remove and eliminate us and grab the power for themselves and establish their malchus on this earth as opposed to Hashem's. Every single empire is trying to establish themselves as the dominant force, as opposed to God. So we're going to see how all of that, it was just playing into empowering the Jewish people. And we're going to laugh. We're going to see how System 2 was all securing Am Yisrael in System 1. And that's why Yitzchak, we will laugh, and that's the future. And how will we be guaranteed that even though Am Yisrael is not perfect, Hashem will still, throughout the Gullus, and that's what we're going to focus on today, always treat us as if we're in System 1. How will that be? That's on the Zechus. That is on the Zechus of number 1. We said the 13 Midas Harachamim. Remember that? We did a whole comparison. The 13 Midas Harachamim by Har Sinai is Hashem's guarantee that He will always conduct Himself with us as if we're in System 1, even if we operate like we're in System 2. And we start relating to nature and people and being very, attributing our security to things other than Hashem and our survival other than Hashem. Hashem will still treat us as if we are in System 1. So we said that that guarantee was given to us. As a nation. And also we said Hashgacha Pratis. This is the whole System 1, System 2 thing is the key to Hashgacha Pratis. Hashgacha is Kafi Madrega Soshaladim, according to Madrega. How far are you into System 1? Now, the other thing is that that promise, okay, works its way all the way through history. And if you want to look at Israel today, right? We gave examples. So now we're going to go back into the Chumash and see that if the Sarah and Avraham entered fully into System 1 when their names were changed and Avraham got a bris, which was the same time, okay, then you're going to see that what's happening here is they are beginning to restore nature, the earth, to its proper functioning. By existing in System 1, it allows the Teva, it allows the earth, the Adama, to operate as it's meant to operate. Because remember, as soon as we eat from the tree, which means go in System 2, the earth is cursed, right? What does that mean? It can't do its job. It can't respond to the needs of people. It has to be impartial, and it has to be disconnected, and it won't be an instrument. And instead, it'll just go along its rules without ever accommodating anyone. But that's not what nature wants to do. It doesn't want to be an adversary to us. It's our partner. It's meant to be the partner. And that's why you see by Cain and Hevel, it's as if the earth is angry that it had to open its mouth and swallow the blood of Hevel. How dare mankind, interfere and get in the way of the earth doing what it's supposed to do, which is providing for man. So that the earth has to become disconnected. Think about a parent and a child. Right? The parent wants to provide for the child everything, and the parent has the capacity and the wisdom and the wherewithal, but the child doesn't want to admit that the parent is giving them anything. They think that they're just getting things somehow by accident, and then the parent has to stop, and the parent can do what the parent wants to do. They have to hold back. That's a similar type of thing. That hurts, it hurts me more than it hurts you. It does. And it hurts nature. It hurts the Adama not to be able to do its job. So far, so good? Okay, now look in the sheet. Oh, you don't have the sheet. So, now we are going to encounter...
2 questions. Okay, where is it? Pur, the story of Pur.
Yeah, we're getting there. It's all in there. Right there. I'm very proud of you. Yeah.
Even in Abraham's story, and then again in Yosef's story, when there was a Ra'av in Canaan.
Good.
Is that System 1?
Okay, excellent. So the Ra'av in Canaan, okay, there's no food in Canaan. So Avram has to go down to Plishti or Mitzrayim. What is that? This is important. Again, when there's a famine, okay. When there's a famine, we have to say, because look at the bracha and the klala. The bracha is, if we're in System 1, crops, health, wealth, security, there's no famines. So the people in Canaan deserve the famine. Okay? Avraham, people in System 1 have to operate according to the rules of System 2. So if there's a famine, you don't sit there and say, okay, Hashem will provide me food from the heaven, which probably would happen in System 1, but you act accordingly. If there's a famine and there's no food, you go to where there's food. But all the while you understand that despite the people around you being in System 2, we will be protected and provided for. Right? Now, Avraham also had a household who didn't live in System 1 the way that he did, and he had to provide for them the natural way. But think about it also. You know what Yosef told Paro when there was going to be a famine in Egypt, right? That nature will bring a famine. But it could just be the way Hashem is going to provide for you, through the famine. That's exactly how Hashem is going to provide for you if you understand it. Right? So, look what happens now. Now, we're going to get Sarah dies. We're going to focus on Sarah now. Because when her name is changed from Sarai to Sarah, okay, she enters into, and it's not just she enters, she brings history, eventually her descendants, the Jewish people, into System 1 for at least 1,000 years, till the Churban Beis HaMikdash, till the Purim story, and then guess who takes her place? Esther. How do you know there's a relation between Esther and Sarah? Who remembers the Medrash? Now we understand what that means. Because Sarah lived 127 years. Esther has 127 territories. What are we trying to say? The first 1,000 years of System 1 are initiated, we're going to see here right now, by Sarah. Sarah plays a very important role. When that whole tkufa is over, Esther, who's compared to Sarah, arises and ensures that for the next kufa, which is till today, we will also still have System 1. Now we're going to see how that works. When Sarah dies, Avraham wants to bury her. Okay? So who does he turn to buy him Maras Machpelah? What's the guy's name?
Ephron.
What's his name? Ephron. What's the shoresh? Aphor. Okay, so here's how it starts. Bereshis, you can write this down, you'll get your notes in the email later. Bereshis Perek Beis Pasuk 7. Vayitzer Hashem Elokim es ha'adam. What are the next words? Afar min ha'adama. Dirt of the earth. Vayipach ba'apav nishmas chayim. And he gave him a neshama. So Adam is part physical and part neshama. Okay? And that's why there's such a temptation, because we're physical, to relate to the physical world rationally and draw the conclusions that make sense and fall into System 2. Right? Stop me if you don't get it. Hildy?
Why did Sarah have to die?
Okay, wait for the end on that, okay? Now, so what happens? So they eat from the Eitz Hadas, this man that has offer in us, and therefore could relate to the physical world according to what we see, and that's Eitz Hadas Tovra, our subjective opinion, which draws logical conclusions about who is my provider, because I'm not looking behind the scenes, right? And I make a conclusion about what is good and what is bad for me. That's Eitz Hadas Tovra. So, when we eat from the tree, when we go into System 2, what happens? Hashem says, Arura ha'adama ba'avorecha. The earth is cursed now. Remember, not biglalcha, because you, but on your behalf. Ba'avorecha. I'm going to make the earth show you that it's not going to cooperate in your mistake of System 2. It's not going to provide for you. You're going to plant crops, and it's going to give you thorns and thistles. You're going to say, what's happening? Why isn't it providing for me? And the earth is going to say, sorry, because you're not in System 1. You are drifting. So you'll learn a lesson. So the fact that earth doesn't cooperate is supposed to teach you a lesson. It's not supposed to drive you into more fear and more maneuverings, okay? So, what happens? Bereshis 3:19, okay, Pasuk, Perek 3, Pasuk Gimel Yotes. What is the curse on man and woman? What is the outcome after this disconnection from nature? Bezeat apecha tochalechem, with the sweat of your brow, with a lot of ishtadlus, not a little. Just should be a little. A lot of ishtadlus, you will eat your bread. Ad shuvcha el ha'adama, until you return to the adama. Ki mimena lakachta, because you were taken from the Adama. Ki afar ata ve'el afar tashuv, because if you live in System 2, you are afar and you go back to afar. Now, what happens? Sarah dies. And they go to find a place to bury her. And they find the Maras Machpelah, which is owned by Ephron. Okay? And when he buys the Ma'aras Machpelah and puts Sarah, and he owns it for Sarah, look at Bereshis Perek 23, Chaf Gimel, Pasuk 17, Yud Zayin. Look at the Pasuk. After Avram acquires this place, how strange are these words? Now they make sense. Otherwise, these words don't make any sense. Vayakam Sedei Ephron, Asher b'Machpelah, Asher lifnei Mamre. Vayakam Sedei Ephron. And the whole field of Ephron got up. Where did it get up from? Where did the Afar get up from? From the sin of Adam, from the beginning of civilization till Sarah and Avram, it's 2,000 years. The Afar was reduced. The Adamah was reduced. Everything functioned on humans are Afar. The earth is Afar. We relate to each other equally. We're in this together. There's nothing. It's all system 2. But now the Afar Ha'adamah, the dirt of the earth, that was cursed, that was disconnected from man, that was not allowed to do its job, that's been squashed down, right? What happens? Vayakam Sedei Ephron. It's able to get up, which means that Sarah being put in the earth frees, for the next 1,000 years for Am Yisrael, the earth, nature, to finally do its job correctly. Now you're going to begin to see that for the next 1,000 years, we suddenly have Nisim and Nevuah and all kinds of Hashgacha Pratis and HaKadosh Baruch Hu openly maneuvering things. And we see System 1 in full play for the next 1,000 years. And Am Yisrael live on a regular basis with miracles and prophecy and all that stuff, which is System 1. The fact that Sarah is, by being interred in this place, is restoring the Adamah that was cursed to its rightful place is a beautiful medrash, okay? In Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer 36. Let me read it to you. Rabbi Huda says, when did Abraham make a covenant with the peoples of the land? When the 3 angels were revealed to him, he thought that they were travelers and ran to greet them. Okay, his chesed, his achnasas orchim. Remember, Avram, at this point, after the bris, this is after the bris, Avram gets to demonstrate his achnasas orchim, or his chesed, which we said, remember what chesed is? The clear knowledge that we are part of Hashem's existence, and thereby Hashem provides for us as He exists. That's how we exist. We don't make it deals and all that stuff. That's what Avram was showing everyone. My place is your place. He opened his tent on 4 sides. Did you see? Everybody's participating in my existence. Everybody's provided for by virtue of the fact that you're part of my life. Like, that's how we are. That's System 1. So what happens? He thought they were travelers and he ran to greet them. He wanted to make them a great meal. And he told Sarah to prepare a feast. At that very moment, she had a menstrual flow. So, therefore, he did not serve the guests the bread that she prepared. This is already getting into Tumah. That's a separate issue. So he ran to bring a calf, but it fled from him and went into the Machpelah cave. Avram ran in after it and found Adam and Chava lying there, asleep, with candles burning around them. Of course, this doesn't have to be literal. And a good smell, the reich of Gan Eden, upon them, like the sweet smell of an offering. So, Avraham, after the bris, in System 1, is drawn to Ma'aras HaMachpelah, where he finds Adam and Chava. It's bringing it full circle. Now, when Sarah is put in the ground in that spot, she's starting the tikkun of Chava, who ate from the tree. In other words, 2,000 years of System 2. It was started by that. Sarah now goes into the earth. The earth is elevated and is allowed to return to its natural, proper functioning of System 1. So far, so good? Okay, now, Yeshayahu. Oh my goodness, this is long. Okay, Yeshayahu, Perek 51, Pasuk 2. All right? When you see your notes, you'll read the whole thing because it's so appropriate for everything we're saying. The Pasuk 2 says, Habitu el Avraham avichem ve'el Sarah tucholelchem. Look back to Avraham, your father, and Sarah, who brought you forth. Now, the word for bringing you forth, it's a funny word. Ticholalchem. What's the shorish here? Ticholelchem. What's the shorish? Halal. What's a halal? A void. There was an empty void. Sarah filled the void. Sarah is filling the void in the world. Sarah is bringing us forth to fill this void. And she ki echad karasiv avarchehu varbeu, because they are one. He is one, and Sarah, and there's a whole explanation here how Avram is like a rock and Sarah is like a space that fits into perfectly. In any case, they are bringing the earth back to its proper functioning. The next pasuk in Yeshayahu says, look at this, Ki Amar Hashem, Hashemayim Kisi, the heavens are my throne, is all mashal, V'ha'aretz Hadom Raglai, and the earth is my footstool. What is it trying to say? What is the relationship of a footstool to a throne? Right? It's the continuation of the throne. So Hashem is saying, it's one system. What comes from heaven to earth, this is, even the earth is part of my throne. And Sarah and Avraham re-established that. They didn't keep it disconnected. And it goes on, and then later in Pasuk 9, he starts bringing all the mishalim of a fetus in a womb and childbirth. So he says, shall I bring on labor and not bring forth birth, says Hashem? Shall I, who cause birth, shut the womb? Meaning that he's talking about the future Geula is definite. That we're working to bring out, to give birth to, we're working to give birth to a new reality, a reality of System 1 in the world. And the whole mashal is this birth. And then, Lama teiniku v'savatem misot nachumeha, that you may suck from her breast, and you will be consoled fully. This is at the end of days. The mashal of Am Yisrael being entirely provided for by Hashem and sustained, and System 1 coming into play, is the mashal that you will nurse and be completely sustained. Remember what we said about nursing? How the breast milk changes every feeding to accommodate the baby? That's System 1. Go on to read this yourself, and then it talks about how all the nations of the world will stream to Eretz Yisrael and bring all their wealth to Eretz Yisrael and come and find comfort in Eretz Yisrael as a mother comforts her son, and all those who refuse will not be able to survive at all anymore because everything will have changed. Okay? Now, this is what Sarah, by entering the earth, establishes. Okay? 1,000 years pass. And System 1 it's overtly System 1, Nevuah, Nisim, and everything, it comes to an end. Why does it come to an end, an overt, open System 1? That Hashem is providing everything at every moment. Why does this first kufa of Jewish history have to come to an end? We've spoken about this a lot. Because it's inevitable that it will come to an end. Because what Hashem wants from Am Yisrael is that we believe in System 1. We know it's all System 1, even if it's not so clear anymore. We are now going to enter Gullus, to interact, because we were not in Gullus yet. We spent 800 years on our own land. We never had Gullus. We came out of Mitzrayim and spent, all of the Am Yisrael lived together in Eretz Yisrael for close to 1,000 years. We never had a Gullus. Suddenly we're about to enter a new phase, an adult phase, an adolescent to adult, mature phase. And now Hashem is going to say, you're going into Gullus. You're going into an entire universe that's all System 2. And you're going to, slowly but surely, teach them the lesson that there's nothing but System 1. And all their shenanigans in System 2 are only being used by Hashem in the end to provide for and to ultimately demonstrate that there's only one thing, which is System 1. So now we're going to have a long spate in Gullus where we will have to interact with an entire world that functions exclusively in System 1. They fight with each other. They oppress each other. System 2. They fight with each other. They oppress each other. They conquer each other. They enslave each other. Everything is a power play. Millions, hundreds of millions of people are annihilated in power plays, as is going on today. And let's be honest. We have been very persecuted, relentlessly. But we are not the only people that have been persecuted. Their power plays primarily are against each other. Stalin killed 60 million people. Look what's going on in the Middle East. They're slaughtering each other by the millions and millions and millions. It's not us only. We are identified as the threat. But in the end, they're threatened by each other all the time. They're always at war. There's constant wars. We said that Yemos HaMashiach will be no more wars, because by Yemos HaMashiach, David HaMelech will finally explain to the world, and the world will see there's no reason to fight with anyone, because only Hashem provides anyway. So all this is a waste of energy and just destroying ourselves, right? I'll stop here for a couple of questions.
Going back to what you said, after 1,000 years, things started to deteriorate. Wasn't that the starting of the Megillas Esther?
Yes, now we're getting exactly to that. Exactly. Haman min haTorah. Okay, she said, when things deteriorate, isn't that Esther and the story of Purim? Of course, we're going right into the story of Purim now. And I'll give you a hint. Haman min haTorah minayin. Hamin ha'etz. I should say, right, where we hint, we're going to see that right now. Of course, we're going straight into the Purim story. Of course. Yeah.
But even in System 1,
yes.
the first 1,000 years, we still had operated, a lot of us operated in System 2, in the sense of Yosef brothers, all the sins that happened.
Anytime, but in those years, anytime, yes, didn't we operate in System 2, even in the first 1,000 years? Anytime we slipped into System 2, where we thought that we were afraid of a strong king or an enemy or someone, immediately Hashem would send a Navi, would send a message, would do a nace, would have to teach us, you're in System 2. Who are you afraid of? Remember David and Goliath? Everybody's scared of Goliath. And David walks over to him and says, why are you scared of this thing? It's a dog. It's nothing. There's nothing. You don't have to be afraid of anyone just because he's tall and he's strong. David lived in System 1, and he got deeper and deeper into it all through his life. So of course, but when we lived clearly in System 1, the second we lapsed, Hashem showed us directly that we're lapsing. In System 2, in Gullus, we don't see it so clearly, but if you have eyes, you see it right away.
Number 2, where does climate change fit into all this?
Okay, climate change.
And number 3,
there is no such thing as climate change. Okay, the video is go. So I don't want unless it's directly. Let's go further. Medrash Rabbah Esther. Okay, here it is. Rabbi Akiva was sitting and teaching, and Rabbi Akiva, his students were dozing off. He sought to arouse them, so he said, I have a question. What was Esther's merit to rule 127 provinces? Such said the Holy One, blessed be He, let Esther, the descendant of Sarah, who lived 127 years, rule over 127 countries. So now we're going to see that just as we are slipping into System 2, just as Hashem is withdrawing a little bit of the clear, absolute, direct System 1, operation, we are immediately in the Purim story. So what happens here? Okay, Am Yisrael. What does Haman say? Yeshno Am Mefuzar Umefurad. Okay, Yeshno Am Mefuzar Umefurad. Yeshno. What's the shorash? Yoshen. They're sleeping. They're in dreamland. They are thinking fantasy is reality. They're beginning to relate to, nature as nature. The king said, come to the party. If we don't listen to the king and come to the party and do right, then we will be in trouble. Right? And more than that, they were exiled. Let's be honest. They were, for the first time, the Jews were exiled. And so they drew a natural conclusion that since Hashem has kicked us out of the land, this probably means that He's rejected us entirely. We are no longer the Jewish people. What's the difference? Let's assimilate. Let's do what everybody else does. Let's try to guarantee our survival by ingratiating ourselves with the local prince or king or emperor, because that's normal. That's what you do. And since Hashem has banished us, we're probably not being provided for by Hashem. So now we're on our own, and we got to be in System 2. and work with, So, but what really was happening was Hashem was putting us into the tkufa that we also called what? Rachel, remember this? Hashem was saying, no, I'm not abandoning you. I am not stopping to provide for you. I am sending you as my nation into the world, into the whole rest of the world, which is entirely in system 2, disconnected. What do you call someone who's disconnected from God, alienated, feels like they're on their own, scrambling, manipulating us with mufuzar or mufurad, all scattered all over the place. Because when you trust in Hashem, you're not all over the place. It's one address, that's it. So he says, I am sending you into the nations, not that I've banished you. You have a job now as grown-ups. After 1,000 years of System 1, you're going to live with System 1 among people who are all in System 2 for the only reason is to teach them, to show them. Because in the end, they're all going to come back to Eretz Yisrael. And that's what it means, Kol Kvoda Bas Melech Panima. Am Yisrael is Bas Melech. The kavod that was external, the Beis HaMikdash, Nevi'im, Nisim, the System 1 that was, you could point to, Zeh Keli V'yan Vehu. It's right there, look. Straight up, you can point with your finger. That all that kavod is going to, is there, is the real thing, but it's going to now take on a new form. And the awareness of all that kavod of System 1 is going to go inside, called Kvoda Bas Melech Panima. We're going to carry it around inside us, and we're going to live by it and trust it, but we're going to be in a world of System 2, and we're going to have to live differently, live separately, operate by different rules, and slowly but surely they will all come to realize that it's only System 1. And Hashem said, before I send you out on this mission, I'm going to give you a great example of how this works. Voila, the Purim story. You see that? The Purim story is an event that is placed before the entire journey of Jewish history that will end in the Purim story. But it's giving us a glimpse of what it's going to be like. How the System 2, Haman is System 2, in a System 2 mindset, I would say on steroids, like the ultimate System 2 mindset. And Hashem uses every single little manipulation that Haman did, and make no mistake about it. Everything Haman did was from the Eitz Hadas, was from fear that he had to establish his own existence. Every single thing Haman did was a power play for his own advancement and self-aggrandizement. Everything he did, getting rid of Vashti, feeling threatened by Mordechai, everything he did was a power play. In the end, Haman wanted Achashverosh's position, and everything he did was for his own sake. And his hatred for the Jews, everything was recruited. Everything came into play because the Jews, this Mordechai was in his way, not bowing to him. And in addition, he hated the Jews because he's an Amaleki, which we'll talk about. Everything came together. And in the end, now you understand what this means. How did Haman meet his end? What was Haman's end? Vayitlu et Haman. Where did they hang him? Al ha'etz. What do we mean al ha'etz? Eitz hadas, System 2. He hung by living in System 2. Vayitlu et Haman al ha'etz. Asher hechin Mordechai. He was using System 2 to get Mordechai, but he hung from it. It killed him. And it provided for Mordechai. You see this? Yes. It's crazy, right? Now, the thing is like this. Haman min ha-Torah we not minayin. From where does the Torah deduce that there was Haman's existence? Hamin ha'etz asher amarti asher tzivisicha, from the tree that I said don't eat. Achalta, did you eat? Hamin ha'etz Haman. Okay, get it? Boom. Now, okay. Now, Zohar. Now we're going to learn something here. Amazing. When did Abraham and Sarah enter into System 1? Okay. Who does Haman come from? Amalek. Who's Amalek? Amalek is System 2. There's nothing but System 2, and anyone who says otherwise is the ultimate threat, and therefore it's Amalek against the Jews. So when Amalek attacks the Jewish people, right when they come out of Mitzrayim, right after Kriyas Yamsuf, after System 1, what exactly do they do when they catch Jews? This is unbelievable. Zohar is Devarim 20 Chafei Yud Zayin. Zohar es asher asalacha Amalek. Remember what Amalek did to you. B'derech b'tzeischa Mitzrayim. When you were on the way out of Egypt, out of System 2, by the way, back into System 1. That's the derech we were on. Asher karcha b'derech. Okay, they surprised you on the way. V'yizanev b'cha kol hanechashalim acharecha. What does that mean, Vayizanev b'cha? Anyone know what Rashi says? What does Rashi say? What do you mean? Asher karcha b'derech, he ambushed you. Vayizanev kol hanechashalim. What does that mean? This refers to how Amalek attacked the Jews in the desert. Okay, what does Vayizanev mean? And who are the nechashalim, the weak ones, the weary? And why were there people who were weak and weary, which Rashi says they were weak spiritually, they didn't fear Hashem? Rashi, according to the Medrash, says that Amalek cut off the bris milah of the Jewish people. Okay, those people that had not had, because don't forget, they didn't have a bris milah in Mitzrayim, and then they had to have a bris milah before they left Mitzrayim, but there were people who didn't have a bris milah. They had a, right, remember, b'damaya chayi, we say on Pesach, they gave everyone a bris milah. You're going into System 1, CS Mitzrayim. But obviously there were nechashalim, weak ones, who didn't have a bris milah. They didn't go into System 1. So what did Amalek did? They cut off the bris milah, okay, the foreskin, of, and threw them up to the sky. The divine cloud protected the nation in general, but those who did not fulfill the bris milah in Mitzrayim were excluded. Thus, the weak people were not physically weak and weary, but spiritually so, as is confirmed by several midrashim. According to this approach, it is likely that those who did not fear Hashem are referred to or included in the Jewish victims of Amalek's attack. Who does Amalek attack? Someone without a bris milah. Who is Amalek? System 2. You don't have a bris milah. In other words, you don't have the concept of System 1. That's you're in the clutches. Okay? Now, there's one thing I want to end with here, and then we can take some questions. What if it is natural, since the whole Eitz Hadas, Eitz HaChaim story is in the beginning of the Torah, which doesn't mean it came first. It surrounds all of Jewish history. It's not part of time. Remember that? It doesn't have a historical moment. It's before 5777. It means it's the subconscious. It's the forces in play that drive and explain all of history and what's going on here. So, of course, the ultimate human challenge is not to eat from the Eitz Hadas. That's what we mean when the whole Torah starts with this nisayon. Don't eat from the Eitz Hadas. But clearly, it's the most tempting of all challenges to eat from the Eitz Hadas. What does that mean? Trust the logical conclusions of what the facts on the ground. You're human. You live in a human world. You have to react to the realities. So trust, what you conclude. The doctor who's going to do the surgery is the provider of your health, and it's the doctor, it's all about the doctor. Just because, who else do you see besides the doctor? There's no one else in the room. So clearly, it's easy to live in System 2. It's the easiest thing to slip into it. We spoke about this. Remember that what's hard for Hashem to lose, the connection when we manage to get into System 1 and we entirely trust Hashem to the exclusion of everything else. It's very hard not to respond, not to be afraid, not to be jealous, not to be depressed, not to feel worried, not to feel taken advantage of, not to to struggle for our security. It's very hard not to do these things because we're just responding to reality. So it's really hard to always keep in mind in this long tkufa of Galus that actually there is no reality at all. Hashem provides everything, and the more we know it and the more we trust the mitzvahs, because the only way to demonstrate that we live in System 1 is we trust the mitzvahs, because the mitzvahs keep us clear that only Hashem provides. That it's no one to turn to but Hashem. That Hashem told us how to live in a way that will guarantee the System 1 in operation. And it's very hard to do that. We slip easily into System 2. Every time we get angry, somebody offended us, somebody undermined us, somebody did something to us, we get into System. That person harmed me. But in System 1, they're just all shlichim. Everybody's a shaliach. So we do our ishtadlus, but we can't buy into the facts and the reality. And the Jewish people don't, as a nation, even they're not religious. We never buy into the reality. The reality is, everybody hates you, nobody needs you, Hashem has persecuted you so much, doesn't that prove that God has rejected you? That's the reality. Right? But we don't even believe it. We don't live by what it seems like and what the facts on the ground are. Now, if somebody slips into System 2, which is inevitable, and then, by the way, it has a life of its own, and then we start fearing things, we start reacting to that fear, and that has its own vicious cycle, right? And in the end, nature's saying, look, I'm not getting involved unless you go back to System 1, do whatever, you're on your own here. So, this is a beautiful, beautiful Gemara to give us all hope, okay? We learn it's a Mishnah, and Bava Kama brings a Mishnah, Bava Kama 31a. Simple. Listen. So that's every halacha in the Gemara is really a life lesson, okay? They're a case of two potters. Potters mean they're holding pottery, which is easily shatters, right? Two potters who were walking, one behind the other. And the first one tripped and fell. So the second one tripped on the first. Who's chayav? Now both of their stuff is broken. Who's chayav to pay back the goods that are broken? The first potter fell on an obstacle. He fell on a tree branch. So clearly the tree's not paying him back. Well, now the second potter fell on the first potter and all his stuff broke. So who's chayav? So you know what the Gemara Paskins, one opinion here? The first guy's chayav. Why? Okay, the first potter is liable for the damage to the second potter. Why? Shahaya lo la'amod v'lo amad. Because he could have gotten up and he didn't get up. When a person falls, it's not an excuse to make other people fall. When you fall, you get up. So that nobody else falls because you fell. You hear? Now, what this shows us, to wrap it all up, is that there's always a second chance. You fall, you get up. You know who fell? You know the bigger picture to the Purim story? Why? Esther. She's a woman, Sarah's a woman, 127, Sarah went in the ground was lifted up, Esther became the queen of the whole world, the civilized world, and then she ensured that forever after, through the Purim story, we Hashgacha Pratis, Nes Nister, System 1, in play. Thank you, Esther. Why Esther? Who's Esther? Because Esther had a grandfather named Shaul. And Shaul was the king. And Shmuel said, Amalek is coming, System 2. 2 rules now. Don't start the war till I get there. They would offer karbanos, and then, with Hashem's help, System 1, go into the war. Don't start the war, don't offer the karbanos till I get there. And System 2, and Rule 2, wipe them all out. Eradicate Amalek. What happens? What did Shaul do? Why did he start the war early, bring the karbanos early? He got scared. Amalek was coming, and Shmuel wasn't there yet. Fear. So he lost his malchus. Okay, and he saved Agag. What's that for? Power. I conquered Agag, right? Although his intentions were good, he didn't listen to the Navi. You have to listen to the rules in System 1 for it to work. He had other cheshbonos. So he said fear, power. He lost the Malchus. Because the Malchus of Am Yisrael has got to be in the hands of the next one, David HaMelech, who explains as to his life shows it's all System 1. Okay? But you get a second chance. You fall, you get up. So Agag was saved by Shaul. Okay, how does Hashem use System 2 to provide for System 1? Yay, Agag survived. He outmaneuvered, right? For a night, for one day, till Shmuel killed him. But Chazal tell us that night there was a woman in the jail. I don't know. Okay, so who comes from Agag? Haman. And who puts Esther, Shaul's granddaughter, on the throne? Haman puts Shaul's granddaughter on the throne to finish the job. System 2 is empowering System 1. It's handing that power. It's handing and Esther, second chances, she does accomplish what Shaul did not. And she does not fear Haman, with Mordechai's encouragement. They both come from Rachel. That's Galus. Remember, Tkufa number 2 is called Rachel. They both come from Rachel, whose Mida is Shtika, because system 1 is quiet in the Galus. And Esther rises up to the challenge, and she finally takes care of Haman. Ta-da! How does everything all come together? Amazing, no?
What did you say, Rachel and System 1?
Rachel is called Tkufa, the second Tkufa, when we're in System 2 to teach them about System 1. So we said that, to wrap it up, they enter System 1, Am Yisrael goes into the first Tkufa of obvious System 1 with the Bris Milah. The second Tkufa is started by Esther, Sarah's descendant, who faces off Amalek, who mocks the Bris Milah and throws it up to the heavens and says, ha ha, here's your Bris Milah. That's who Agag is, that's who Haman is, the ones who mock the Bris Milah. Now, just scary, Yimach Shemo in our past generation, he, in Mein Kampf, wrote, the Jews have perpetrated 2 evils upon mankind. Conscience upon the mind, that's system 1. You can't manipulate everyone and take control. It's not survival of the fittest. Conscience. And circumcision upon the body. And you know what their motto was? Will to power. Will to power. You know what will to power is? Survival of the fittest. If you can get the power, you can do what you want. Am Yisrael, unlike the Purim story, we were severely, harmed by their capacity to, use everything to do what they wanted to do. In the end, Hashem preserved Am Yisrael. But the fact that we were subjected to that, okay, Am Yisrael looks at itself and says, what we have to do is we have to even more ferociously, fiercely establish a world that this can never happen again, that a world that knows that it's system 1, it's not a survival of the fittest world. We have to make sure that survival of the fittest cannot exist. This whole mentality cannot exist. We have to even commit ourselves even more to establishing the opposite idea. And that's why Am Yisrael picks themselves up after the Holocaust. And we come to Eretz, we build Eretz Yisrael, we build our yeshivas, we build hospitals, we build this land. And now the land of the Jewish people, religious and not religious, is a land that is second to America, not just in technology, but there's something even more than that. Technology that benefits mankind. There's a new conference coming up, right? You all read about the conference coming up? A worldwide conference for all the countries to present their technologies that advance the betterment of mankind. And Eretz Israel is not just participating in this conference, they have the most technology and contributions from any country that benefit mankind. All right, everybody. Yeah, if you want to ask questions, come up. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.